Hello everyone again. In this session we will discuss knowledge management and its related concepts. To start with, let's have a definition about knowledge. What is knowledge actually? A possible definition for knowledge is to know how to do things. Okay, people within the organizations, they know how to do their job and in a certain way. And over time they accumulate knowledge, and this knowledge is very important and very valuable to the company. That's why knowledge is also called the intellectual capital of the firms and companies. So companies are very interested actually to collect and store and disseminate or share this knowledge among themselves, among the employees. The advantages are, of course, that if some of the employees leave the company, then their knowledge is not lost, and the company does not have to reinvent the wheel again for the newcomers and the new customers and new employees to learn the things. So from the company's perspective, it's extremely valuable to capture this knowledge. For example, look at this picture. It's a Hoover Dam, which is close to border of California and Nevada. The dams are very complicated things. Nevada company, civil engineering company, was contracted by the Hoover Dam to do the maintenance on the dam. And this company, they had an engineer that worked for more than 30 years for the company, and the engineer knew the dam very well and had solved the problems and issues for many years. So the company started actually getting worried that once this engineer just retires or leaves the company, what's going to happen with his knowledge? So they started a knowledge management initiative to capture his knowledge and share it with the new young engineers. And so they interviewed him, and they captured his expertise into a system, computer system, and after a while, these new engineers, they start pulling out the knowledge from that system, but it was not very successful initiative. For some reason, this old engineer, the way he could see things, could not just transform them or translate them to valuable knowledge so that the people just could comprehend it and apply it. So as we could see, it's not an easy task to capture knowledge and codify the knowledge. But there are successful knowledge management stories as well. For example, look at this Airbus 380. The Airbus, this bird, can fly for 100% automatically. No pilot or co-pilot needed. Everything from one airport to other airport could completely for 100% be done by these knowledge management and software on board. Of course, we know that just for the emergency cases and things like that, the pilot and co-pilot are there. But for most of the time, they are just sitting and drinking coffee or talking to each other. They are not, piloting the airplane, because the airplane flies by itself. But occasionally, if there is an issue, there is an emergency, then the recommandeer system on board of the Airbus just recommends, pulls up the knowledge and recommends to the possible course of action or best course of action to the pilot. But sometimes, if there is no similar situation, and the pilot just takes an initiative and lands the airplane hopefully successfully, then they capture that scenario into the knowledge management, and the next in the next scenario, if similar situation happens, then the other pilots can just take this successful action as well. So definitely airplanes, they deploy a knowledge management system successfully, and this is basically one of the good examples as how knowledge management in the daily life we are dealing with and they have been deployed. Another example is the so-called medical knowledge management, for example. The World Health Organization of the United Nations, they have a huge database they have created a huge knowledge management system where the physicians around the world, they contribute their expertise and knowledge to that knowledge base. And the young physicians around the world, they can just freely tap to that knowledge management and get all kind of advice about diagnosing diseases or cases. This is very handy and very efficient and effective way of sharing the knowledge. For example, some physicians in Africa, where there are not many capabilities or possibilities in terms of medical services and cares, they can also tap into the knowledge management system of the World Health Organization and just get the latest and the best expertise available to their disposal. So again, this is another example as how the knowledge management systems work. Okay, so we have given some examples. We have gone through some examples. So let's define the types of the knowledge that are available. The knowledge are, in broad term, there are categorized in two types: tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. The tacit knowledge is formed based on the soft information. You know, managers go to the golf courses, they talk to each other, they communicate each other, and they gain a lot of soft information, and then they apply that soft information to compose the strategies, to run their businesses, and they build knowledge as well. So this is a form of tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is something that the employees essentially they build it in their head. That's in their head. And the explicit knowledge is the opposite form. That is basically knowledge that is based or formed based on the documented information, manuals, company documents, data from the database. They pull it up, and these are hard data and being analyzed, and the course of action they've been taken, and the knowledge is again formed. So these are the two types of explicit and tacit knowledge that essentially they are being formed in the companies. Now, from the company perspective, we said that the companies are very interested to capture this knowledge and share it with themselves. There are some technologies. These knowledge management systems are not very simple things, simple technology. They are usually very sophisticated technologies and software that companies have to buy and deploy. Depending on the nature of the industry or the product, depending on the task at hand that the employees do, this capturing of knowledge could be simple or very complex. Of course, some knowledge, as I explained in that Hoover Dam example, is very difficult to codify. And some other knowledge are easier to codify than the other. But again, the companies are very concerned that this knowledge should not be lost and should be shared with the other employees to raise, the productivity. Imagine that the new employees have been hired, and they could quickly go and tap to the knowledge management system and learn how to function. And this is very good for the company in terms of the productivity of the employee. Also, other employees, existing employees, they also can go and tap into the knowledge management system to get some advice about the problems that they have. And that basically that helps them to be more satisfied with their job and not get frustrated. So overall, there are a lot of benefits and advantages to having a knowledge management system within the companies. Now, some companies are more successful to implement it than the others. That's another thing. But overall, it's a very good initiative, especially for the consulting firms. It's a very good initiative to have this knowledge management system in place, so that this knowledge built by the consultants is not lost and being carried over to the other projects. Actually, clone the whole project and to keep the cost low. So yeah, these are just some of the concepts that are interesting. The companies, the management, of course, has to come up with a knowledge strategy. What is the strategy to go and capture this knowledge? Okay, and how we disseminate it. What type of knowledge we are disseminating? How do we judge the quality of knowledge? Is that important or not? Okay. At this point, also, I want to mention the usage of the wikis. The wikis are basically a content management software that are also can be downloaded free of charge in form of open source software from the internet, and the company just deploy the wikis for the employees to share their knowledge and expertise. And this becomes actually a very popular technology within the companies. And given that a lot of these wikis can be downloaded for free, the companies are basically experimenting to see how the initiative goes and how they can benefit from it. Okay, so these are some of the explanation about the knowledge management systems. Of course, we are going to discuss more about them. All right, and we also have a case. We discuss the case to see how the knowledge management actually, are in terms of the corporate context, how they have their place in within the organization. All right, thank you.